In the dimly lit courtroom, Sarah Mitchell, a seasoned criminal defense lawyer, stood beside her client, Mark Johnson, a middle-aged man with weary eyes and a haunted expression. Mark had been accused of a heinous crime that he vehemently claimed he did not commit. Sarah had taken on countless cases in her career, but this one would forever be etched in her memory as a glaring example of the potential for injustice in the legal system. The case against Mark seemed ironclad. The prosecution presented a compelling narrative, backed by what they believed to be conclusive evidence. A high-profile murder had occurred in their small town, and Mark, an introverted handyman, found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. The victim was a prominent local businessman, and the pressure to solve the case quickly was immense. The evidence against Mark included his fingerprints on the murder weapon and his presence near the crime scene on the night of the murder, as testified by a neighbor. Furthermore, the prosecution argued that Mark had a motive, as he had recently lost his job at the victim's construction company and held a grudge against him. It seemed like an open and shut case. However, Sarah had a gnawing feeling that something was amiss. She decided to dig deeper. As she reviewed the case files, she uncovered crucial details that the prosecution had conveniently left out. The fingerprints on the murder weapon had only been found on the handle, not the blade, suggesting that it was planted there. The neighbor's testimony was questionable, as the witness had a history of making false statements in the past. Sarah knew she needed to bring this evidence to light, but she also understood the limitations of the legal system. With the weight of public opinion and a rush to judgment, the odds were stacked against Mark. She had to tread carefully. During the trial, Sarah meticulously cross-examined the prosecution's witnesses, revealing inconsistencies and planting seeds of doubt in the minds of the jurors. She presented an alibi for Mark, supported by witnesses who testified that he had been at a local diner at the time of the murder. However, the prosecution tried to paint these witnesses as unreliable. As the trial neared its end, Sarah delivered a powerful closing argument, highlighting the gaps in the prosecution's case and the possibility of planted evidence. She implored the jury to consider the consequences of a wrongful conviction and reminded them of their duty to seek the truth, not just secure a conviction. Despite her best efforts, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Mark was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sarah's heart sank, and she knew that justice had not been served that day. Years later, new evidence came to light, pointing to the real perpetrator of the murder. DNA testing on the murder weapon revealed the true killer's identity, a person with no connection to Mark. It became clear that Mark had indeed been a victim of injustice. Mark was released from prison, but the damage had been done. He had lost years of his life, and the scars of his wrongful conviction would never fully heal. Sarah Mitchell, the tenacious criminal defense lawyer, had done everything in her power to defend him, but the flaws in the legal system had allowed an innocent man to be unjustly convicted. This story illustrates how, even with a diligent defense attorney, the combination of a rush to judgment, unreliable witnesses, and planted evidence can lead to a grave miscarriage of justice. It serves as a stark reminder of the imperfections within the legal system and the need for constant vigilance to ensure that justice is truly served. That is how someone becomes an injustice survivor.